what happened to Loren Lockman down in Costa Rica. So Loren Lockman is this guy, health nut, uh, good, but like in a good way. And he ran the Tanglewood Water Fasting Clinic down in Costa Rica, where people could go and fast for, up to like 90 days and maybe even more. So like 3 months, like a long time. And he helped a lot of people to recover from all kinds of sicknesses and find health and stuff like that. And so he apparently got it's funny because it's called Tanglewood. So he got tangled up with somebody, and they had some project that they were doing. It was to do with like having like I guess like an eco village or something like that, and it went south anyways. And this investor pulled out, and all this stuff happened, and he ended up losing this center that he worked so hard on to create, and he lost, I don't know, like his YouTube channel and stuff like that. And it was weird because um, like I followed him for years, and I listened to a lot of what he had to say, and I agreed with a lot of what he said, and all that kind of stuff. And so, I'll get into that after. But so the question is, what happened? Of course, there is a superficial understanding. You can look at it at surface level. It's like, oh, well, this happened and that's just what it looks like. And just he got screwed over kind of deal, right? But I look at things from what I would describe as a more spiritual perspective, and so the way that I've can't come to look at it is that he lost it because humanity's going through a change right now, and I would guess, just based on my own experience and understanding, which I will get into after, is just that what he was offering isn't relevant anymore. Not to say that fasting isn't a protocol, and that can be very beneficial for healing all kinds of stuff, but there was more to it than that, right? Because there was a diet. He was like a big advocate of a raw food diet and a fruit-based diet, and the thing is, yeah, and I get the sense that, like you could say the universe or God works in mysterious ways, that it was just that moving forward, that it's important that not, that there's the right energies moving forward. And so, I would say that what he was doing, although I agreed with a lot of it, it needed to stop. And so it was taken away. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Anyways. And so, like I said, so that's in a nutshell, right? But just a little bit deeper is that personally, I have been on this journey with diet for almost 30 years now, since I started reforming my diet and trying different ways of eating, and different modalities for healing, because I was suffering. I had a bunch of symptoms, and so I tried a lot of different things, and I certainly noticed a big improvement in my health when I started eating fruit. And so that was a big thing. And so he's a big proponent of a fruit-based diet. So it's very much in alignment with my own experience. And, there's a lot of information out there about raw food as well. And so based on my own experiences and things I'd heard from other influences or people, like professionals, people who seem to really know what they're talking about, I tried it, and I did a raw food diet for a considerable amount of time. I mean, I was eating, like for like years, and over the process, I became emaciated. Like I reached a point where I was 135 pounds, and at that point I looked in the mirror. I was like, this isn't healthy. This is a protocol. This is for healing, but it's not a lifestyle. This isn't a way of living. This isn't something that is viable long term, and and so then started eating cooked food again. And like he would say, like, oh, you don't need protein and stuff like that, there's enough protein in fruit. And it's just like, well, I gave a fruit-based diet 10 years of my life. I thought that it was the end all to be all, but at the end of the day, it was not. I reached a point after about 10 years where I was out of energy and I was tired and I was emaciated. And then I went and talked with people about it, based on my own findings and research and experimentation and conversations with people. And it's like, no, for my life, like, because I'm a yoga teacher, I'm into running, I'm into a lot of physical stuff. I am a high energy person. It does not work for me to just eat raw food. I can't get enough food in, and I don't want to just be like constant. Oh, some people say it's like, oh, you just got to eat more. It's just like, no, I don't want to be constantly eating food. And I could tell also by my poops, they weren't healthy looking. The stuff was going through me. And the problem is there's a lot of people on the internet who are touting this diet, this lifestyle, and it's like, I question how, like, it might work for a period of time, and for me it worked for a period of time, but after about 10 years, that's when it stopped working, and it was just like, back to the drawing board. And I still eat a ton of fruit. I still eat a ton of raw food. I still make a lot of raw food dishes just because I enjoy them. I love raw food desserts. They hit home for me. But it just doesn't make any sense for me to not include things like beans and rice. I love beans and rice, and I love steamed vegetables and stuff like that. And I like dal and like potatoes and like tubers and all kinds of stuff. So I know someone else who was dealing with some health issues and went down to see him and had a very bad experience, right? It's bound to happen because he treated a lot of people. I think he was like a man of integrity. He was doing his best. And to me, hats off to him. Like a lot of people who say, like, in my own journey with like studying stuff, there's a lot of people who came before me who I studied their work, and so I kind of piggybacked off of them, and then eventually went in my own direction. And just because I don't necessarily agree with what the conclusions that they came to, I am super grateful for the fact that they went through their own process and they contributed something that others were able to then take and grow from. So to me, Loren Lockman always has a special place in my heart. I am deeply grateful for the journey, and it was, I will say, because of this protocol is how I healed in part from the celiac disease that I was dealing with. I had an autoimmune thing, and if I got even a trace of gluten in my system, I would have all kinds of issues come up, and it was horrible. I don't want to describe them. I've made a video about that. But yeah, so I also feel that, like, because I healed psychologically, I healed emotionally. It was all-encompassing process of healing. So that is what I think about what happened to Loren Lockman. And it was funny because, like, I had to dig to find this information. It wasn't just on his YouTube channel. There was no announcement. It was just like, it was strange. So that's why I'm making this video, is just to share my perspective on what I found out, and and just to say my thanks for what he contributed. Help me out.